got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is base for.
Was philosophy always meant to be practically applicable, or is that some modern reinterpretation?
That's a Joe question. Well, I mean, I suppose one of the differences between, like, very broadly speaking, between something like ancient Greek philosophy, say, and the way that we conceive of philosophy today is that, philosophy today is largely thought of in terms of different fields. You've got your kind of epistemologists who discuss questions like, what is knowledge, and, more importantly, how do we attain knowledge? What are the kinds of systems and processes that produce reliable knowledge, that kind of stuff. And then there are kind of ethicists talking about, what is the good life? Vitally important question. Also, what are the right things to do? And then you've got kind of logicians talking about, you do a lot of proofs and try to often model ordinary things using formal mathematical or at least semi-mathematical systems. You've got philosophers of language, philosophers of science, but certainly in the ancient world, these.
My companies did over $250 million in revenue last year. I broke a Guinness World Record for the fastest selling nonfiction book of all time. I did $106 million in sales in under 3 days. My mother also died last year. And I want to compress everything that I learned this last year into this video for you. For 8 years, I've had the habit of texting myself lessons as they came up so I wouldn't forget them. And every year I make one video like this. And every year it is my most listened to podcast that I have. And so this is 2025 Lessons and Failures. The first is that fear exists in the vague. And so if you're afraid to take the risk.
Fear exists in the vague. Whatever vague it is, it's the unknown. It's the vague that is yet to be learned. It's the vague that's yet to be tried upon. It's the vague that's yet to have you take action. Anybody.
Write it down in excruciating detail what you're actually afraid of having happen. Like, really, step by step, what happens next when you fail. You'll often find it's not that bad when you spell it out, because it only exists when it's hazy, not when it's crisp. Because when you actually play it out, okay, maybe you do go back home. And what does going back home really mean? It means that you go back in your old room, or maybe you sleep on a couch, or maybe you sleep on a friend's couch. And so besides the rules that you believe other people have on your life that you think you're breaking, that is all made up, because they don't really care that much, because no one really cares that much about anyone besides themselves. It's all make-believe. And I think that when you get as specific as humanly possible, but like, I don't want to post this content. What? Because you're afraid that some unnamed account or some named account will write words on a screen that you'll read, that will make your feelings go away. Like, that's is what will stop you from achieving your goal. Having a stranger tell you to fuck off because you reached out is the reason. That's it. Like, you're like, I didn't achieve my goals because I was afraid that somebody I don't know would tell me that I suck. When you say it like that, you're like, shit.
Earlier, similar, but everybody is afraid of something, whatever that so-called something is. Know that people will haze you for it. They'll tell you it's not possible, but know that it is possible as long as you know what you are doing.
Now, let's say a different version. I didn't achieve my potential. I never pursued any of my goals because someone I know, I was afraid that they would say that they didn't approve of my behavior anymore. Maybe you shouldn't, A, care what they think, or B, have them in your life. And so when I decided to launch this book,
It doesn't matter if they believe you or if they don't believe you. Know that it is only for you to know. And A, they shouldn't be in your life, and B, they shouldn't give a fuck about why the fuck they care about you, because they're just an acquaintance. There's no point for them to be in your life when you don't even care about what the fuck they think.
$100 million money models. The goal was to do $100 million in the weekend. And I made that goal public within the company so everybody knew. And one of the people on my team said, well, what if we don't hit it? And I remember almost being like disgusted. Like, that was like my physical reaction to when that person said that. And I remember just looking at him and I was like, dare greatly, motherfucker. Like, what's the point? Like, if we fuck up, we die trying. You know what I mean? Like,
Agreed.
so what? But like, we're gonna still fight like hell to try and make it happen. And so the fact that he asked that really just made me think, like, what does he think I'm afraid of? If I said, hey guys, we're gonna try and hit 100 million, we hit 80, or we hit 70, whatever. I'm like, okay, boo-hoo. We made a bunch of money. We got a ton of people, books in their hands that can help them. What are we gonna do? We'll try again next year. Like, well, what if people don't take me seriously? I don't think people are gonna not take me seriously.
Agreed.
Because people will take you as serious as you take yourself.
Agreed.
And if you are serious about your
People take as serious as you take yourself. I like that. Because without taking yourself seriously, nobody will know what the fuck you're truly trying to take serious as what the hell you're truly trying to take as serious as you. If that makes sense.
goals and your commitment to those goals, people can visibly observe. There is no one that will fault you for daring greatly, period. And anyone who does, doesn't matter. And one of my favorite quotes, like, man, it's probably like a top 10 quote for me all time, which I have a lot of quotes, is from Marcus Aurelius. He said, what are you so afraid of losing when nothing in this world belongs to you? And so it's like,
what are you so afraid of losing when nothing in this world belongs to you? Nothing belongs to you. So then why are you so afraid to lose it? Why are you so afraid to not have it? Why are you so afraid to actually get it? Why? I ask why so many times. You better be asking yourself that same question, is why.
we're here on borrowed time to acquire borrowed assets and borrowed resources. And at the end,
Borrowed time, borrowed resources. We have a limited number of time. We have 4,280 weeks. Or 2,000. And that's 80 years old. 4,200 weeks is all that you get. So do it now. Or try better.
end of the game, you're just gonna push your chips to the middle and somebody else is gonna take your chair. That's it. Out of coins. And so it's like, we're just in the game. Like, we're just here, we're renting, we're leasers. None of this. And so the idea that we'd fear some permanent outcome from an impermanent existence, the longer I've been in the game, the more disgusted I am by that feeling and by someone questioning that. And so I share that with you because when that young man said that to me, it was just a great reminder of, like, we ended up hitting the 100 million. We did 106. But like, you have to believe on some level that you can hit it, and you also have to believe even more that you will die trying.
Because if you don't die trying, if you don't have some level of going to hit it, you will never know when you will hit it. Like for me, I'm a very small content creator, but I still try to post on a daily basis.
And I think that your commitment has to be to the effort that you're willing to put forth and completely divorced of the outcome. I believed that we could hit it because all the math made sense. But could I ultimately control whether ads got delivered or an account gets shut down or the internet doesn't work or there's a storm that day and all the power generator? Of course, there are things that could happen. So in no way. I just want to make sure that I put 100% effort on all the things that I can control. And then after that, you roll the fucking dice. And you stack as many chips as you can in your favor. And then after that, you let the cards fall where they will. And so that was a very...
Because if you let the cards fall where they will fall into place wherever they see fit. Because the cards are the only hand that you are dealt with in this game of life. And do this game of life, it's a hand that you can change, you can dictate, and you can assume. At any time in your life, you can change it whenever you want to.
Big reminder for me this year was that nothing great was ever accomplished by someone who was afraid to try because of what they thought other people would think or say about them. So that was number one. The second one is that I feel like the longer that I've been in this game, the more I feel like mental toughness matters more than motivation.
Okay, because without mental toughness, you will not go anywhere within this game of life. And it's more important than...
Toughness comes down to four.
Which are the understanding of that what you need to do is mentally making you tougher and what you need to accomplish to make yourself mentally tough.
Things, which obviously when my mother died, I had to think through how am I going to respond to this obviously negative event in my life? And that she died all of a sudden, no one thought it was going to happen. It was just very fast, which in some ways I can be very grateful for, right? She didn't have a long suffering period. And so there are four things that I think happen.
So tolerance, fortitude, resilience, and adaptability. I like that. So tolerance is the risk tolerance you take with taking risks. Fortitude is what it builds up to the resilience side of it. And without the fortitude, there is no make or break period. It's just breaking it down. Which means you have to break down, then you must realize that mental resilience comes before each one of those. Because mental resilience is the resilience that you jump from one person or one point of view or one thing to the next. And last one, adaptability. How can you adapt? You either die or you adapt. So adapt now, if not, you will lose the soul of your life.
When any negative event occurs, something against your preferences, something bad, is that the first level is how much bad stuff can happen before you force it to change the way you live. The second component is, okay, something rattles you enough that you change the way you behave. Once you change...
The first component of mental toughness in my model is tolerance. This is how much hardship, the number of hardships. I like that. Because without the hardships, you will not go anywhere. Without how long you can endure hardship before you start and change behavior, you must change behavior so then you can endure that larger and deeper hardship. Because without the hardships, there's no snap, there's no reiteration point, there's no point back to Bravo or Alpha. There is no point break, is what he's implying.
Before you force it to change the way you live. The second component.
Fortitude is the intensity of behavior change once your tolerance threshold is surpassed. Intensity of the behavior must change because if not, your tolerance threshold will be diminished and it would already be no point for you to continue on doing the next phases because without the intensity of that so-called behavior or action, you will go nowhere.
is, okay,
Without changing the behavior, you will not do the fortitude because it's all about the intensity of that new behavior.
something rattles you enough that you change the way you behave. Once you change the way you behave, basically, how upset do you get? How low do you go? Somebody who's more mentally tough would take longer to get upset, and then if they do get upset, they do snap. They only change their behavior a tiny bit. That's it. So they're not like, oh, I'm going to go start taking heroin, and I'm going to go cheat on my wife, and I'm going to go, drive drunk. They're like, I might have some ice cream tonight, right? And then once they're on that negative path, the next level of our element of mental toughness is how fast do you come back? Which
After a change in behavior has occurred from a bad thing, how long does it take for you to return to baseline? Whatever that new return baseline is, the new return to baseline. That's the only thing that can get you from point A to point B, is returning to new baseline. And how long and how much time does it take to change behavior after a bad thing has occurred? Because it's all about bad things and good things occurring to change that behavior or to change that return to baseline.
is resiliency. How fast do you rebound back to where you were? Are you somebody who, someone says a cross word to you? Old school cross, right? Bet, something mean to you. And then you let it bother you for a week? You let it bother you for 2 weeks, a month before you rebound? Even if it was a small thing and a small change in behavior, if you have low resiliency, it just takes you a long time to get to baseline. And then the fourth element is when you do rebound, how much do you rebound? Do you just rebound below where you were? Did it by the way, that's a traumatic event. It permanently changed your behavior. Do you get back to baseline? So it didn't permanently change you, was not traumatic? Or you go above baseline, you adapt, you're better than you were before the bad thing happened, which by the way, also traumatizes you. Because for those of you who hear this all over social media, translate the word trauma into a permanent change in behavior from an aversive, bad stimulus, thing that happened. So trauma means that you just change. You permanently change the way you act. When something
you don't permanently change, you will not change, if that makes sense.
bad happens. Is there a world where you can change how you act permanently? Where you behave better than you did before? Yeah, many of you, many humans, not the current generation, let's say a generation or two back, were traumatized by your parents many times. Sometimes with a belt, sometimes with a hanger, sometimes with a spoon, sometimes with a hand, sometimes with a shoe or a slipper, sometimes at your head. Who knows? The point is that you did something, you got smacked, and then you permanently stopped doing that. They traumatized you. Was trauma bad in that situation? No. It's only bad if it permanently changes your behavior in a way that is against the type of person that you want to be or the types of behaviors that you prefer to act in or do. And so when I thought about those things, and I was forced this year to actually define what is mental toughness. People throw this out a lot. How can I measure this? And then if I can measure it, then it means that I can improve it. And so when someone says, hey man, toughen up or get mentally tougher, now at least you have 4 variables that you can think of in your mind. I want to take longer for something to change the way I act. If it does change the way I act, I want it to change it as little as possible. And if I notice that my behavior has changed, I want to rebound as quickly as I can as soon as I notice that it changes. And then not only that, I want to be better for it, not worse. And then that's what happens. And the shift that occurs is that life starts happening for you, not to you. You become the victor of your circumstances rather than the victim. You become the person who's in the driver's seat. And the reason that so many people are aversive to that concept is because it is so much easier to cast blame outwards, right? Your power follows the direction of where you point blame. So if you say, I'm this way because my mom didn't hug me enough, I'm this way because my dad didn't hug me enough, then guess who actually has complete control over your life? Them, or your perception of them. But if you said, I am this way because I am not resilient enough, I was not adaptive enough, I didn't have enough tolerance to be able to handle that level of stress. Well, then guess what you can now do? You can do something about it. Because you admitted at least you were in charge. You were the one in control. Or you have some control, some influence over the outcome of how you act. And so defining this was really helpful for me, obviously going through my mother's death and accident. and thinking like, what kind of man do I want to be? How do I want to show up to my family? How do I want to be there for everyone else who's going to be at this, at this funeral? My extended family, the people from my mom's church who are going to be there. Like, how do I want to present myself? And to be clear, I'm not saying that you shouldn't suffer, that you shouldn't mourn. I think that people mourn in 100% unique ways that are
Agreed.
entirely of their own. And for anybody to say that
Because without mourning, you will not go anywhere. You will not change. You will not be sad. You will not depressed. You will not be anything.
you somehow think someone should mourn the way you think they should mourn, fuck you. Real talk. People can mourn however they want to. And your choices in those harder times can serve as evidence of the type of person that you want to be. So
Because without evidence, you are not who you say you are. And if you want to be that version, you can be that version in any way, shape, or form. It just depends on what version you're trying to become as.
when hard times come again, you can look back and say, I know I can get through this because I got through that. And then it becomes the stack of undeniable proof that you're not just saying you are this way, you can prove that you are this way. And it's not that you do this to the external world, because the external world doesn't give shit and they're not taking tracking.
And nobody cares.
But it's for you because you're the one with the tally marks. You're the one who's got the scars to show for it. You're the one who gets to say, I know I can get through this because I have been through worse. And what's really interesting that I'll share is that the younger you are, in my opinion, the harder life is. Because you have the same hard things that occur to you. 10 out of 10 bad thing is a 10 out of 10 bad thing. Maybe your 10 out of 10 is different than somebody else's, but everyone has a maxed out pain scale. The difference is that when you're younger, you don't have the tools to protect yourself, you don't have the tools to respond, and you don't know how to make sense of the world yet. And so no matter what you go through now as an adult, I always think to myself, there is something for sure that I went through when I was younger that was harder than this. And every time I look for it, I find it. And it reminds me that one, this too shall pass, and two, I'm still fucking here. And so this year had a lot of hardship, not just my mother's death, but it served as a reminder of the things that I can put in my backpack on my checklist of things that I can say.
Need to find the best way to learn math? It's brilliant.org. Brilliant's an effective and fun way to learn, built for the way your mind actually works. Every lesson is visual and interactive, so the math.
I have also survived this. So the third thing that I wrote down for myself was record-breaking outcomes take record-breaking work.
Record-breaking outcomes take record-breaking work, because without the work, you are nothing. Without the habits, you are nothing. Without the standpoints, you are nothing, because without the record-breaking work, there will be no outcomes, because it takes time to break the work and create the breaking part of the work, because work is not that hard. Breaking records of that work is very difficult.
And so when I was kind of in the thick of preparing for the book launch, this launch, the Guinness World Record breaking launch, right? The guy who owned the record before that, Prince Harry, had almost doubled the guy who owned the record before that, which is President Obama, right? So Obama was at 800-something thousand, Prince Harry was at 1.4 million. And I'm thinking, these guys have tremendous resources at their advantage. And they wanted to have tons of book sales and show that they had lots of people who loved them and all that stuff. And I was like, how am I going to try and outsell these monarchs, literally, right? And it's like, well, what are the things that are controllable? Is the work that we put into it. And I was like, well, I don't know how hard Prince Harry works. I have no idea. I've never met him. But I was like, I know that I can work for years on something without anyone knowing about it before revealing it. And I think about it a lot like the Olympics. So people will train for 4 years to have 10 seconds where the world sees them. And what's interesting is that people see those 10 seconds and assume, okay, 10 seconds when they ran, maybe it's, 100 times that for how much they work. It's just not really fathomable for somebody who doesn't even know how to work long and hard to think about how much effort that really takes.
Agreed.
And so when I was in the thick of it, I just kept thinking to myself, like, man, this is so much work. And then I thought to myself, like, yeah, no one has ever done this before. So no one has ever done this before.
Agreed.
Of course it will take that much work. Did I
The more work you put in, the more output you put in, the better you will feel and the better that you will get.
expect to do something that no one had ever done before with a level of effort that had been repeated many, many times? Of course not. The amount of times I had to double check every single email flow from every single potential combination is 400 pages of copy. There was more copy written just in the emails than words in the book. And then every single VSL, so video sales letter, I had 6 of them. Every single one of them, painstakingly crafted, where I have to say, I gotta get it shorter, but I have to stuff more in here, I gotta get it shorter. How can I put more visuals? How can I put more narrative in it? How can I minimize the downside? How can I express more of the upside potential of this particular thing? And then as I was creating the slides, right, for the webinar, I wrote out every single word first, and then went through multiple passes of editing. And then after editing the actual words, every single word that was said was prepared. And then those words had to get on the slides. How many? 1,700 slides. How much AI was used in the making of those slides? 0. Me, because as of right now, there's nothing that makes slides like me. As of yet. Maybe there will be. Currently, it doesn't. Not the style I like. And so I'm there, pasting these things, like, holy shit. And then I was like, okay, well, I also have to have a visual on every single slide. I did use AI for the visuals. But I had to go through that, and you're like 300 slides in, and you're like, oh my God, this was 2 days. And you're like, I have another 1,400 slides to make. And that's just for the webinar. That's just for the first part of day 1. And then I've got the prep that I have to do for every one of the interviews. And then I got to talk to every one of those guys and tell them what I'm going to say, and then make sure that I can steer the conversation in a way that's interesting to the audience, and then also still promotes the book and the other stuff. And so with each of these things, and even when I had the playbooks, right, when I explained those, I practiced being able to walk, say the slide, and position the props at the same time. You think, oh, well, that just looked normal. It's like I had to do it 50 times, 100 times, so that I knew that when the screen would come on, I would reverse order. So I'd put the letter in my pocket. I'd take my hat from underneath my arm. I'd pull it back up, and then I would say, business owner.
All right, leave a like and subscribe if you want to. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.